we are. We're live. Not sure what was happening, but Facebook was a little laggy this morning. So, yeah, sorry about that. Anyway, I am here, and as soon as we start to see some people check in, we'll start today's program. Hi, Meg. So we do have a whole bunch of fun things to talk about this week and moving forward. I've decided to start with a bit of a curriculum. So that'll also give people a chance to focus in on things and provide me feedback of things that you guys want to talk about and things you want to learn. That being said, I just turned on live and oh, here we go. Here's a pencil. That's good. So I'm going to start making notes. Hi, Roxanne. I'm going to start making notes of what it is you guys want to talk about. What I've decided to do is start giving our weekly open studio a structure instead of me just pulling ideas out of thin air. Why don't you guys tell me what it is you want to learn? So on Mondays, I've decided, maybe you've seen in the notes, but on Mondays we're going to do a makeover Monday. I'm making my own notes here, which is why my eyes are off the camera. Makeover Monday is, hi Linda, Makeover Monday is going to be all about your submissions for paintings that have caused you a great deal of frustration and you just want some help from myself and from the group on how to, I hate to say the word improve, but make them speak to you, because clearly the reason, hi Judy, the reason that they're frustrating to you is because they just don't speak to you, right? So we've got to rework our paintings. Sometimes, so Mondays, as part of the new curriculum, is going to be Makeover Monday. So this week we have a project, and I've put it into the feed. So if you scroll down in our tribe, you can see this is a painting done by Maria Oswald, and it has caused her no end of grief. So in a short bit, we'll get to that. But hi Emmy, but I'm looking forward to providing a schedule for you guys so we know what to expect every day of Open Studio. So Monday is going to be Makeover Mondays, and so you can submit pieces that you're just so frustrated you just don't know how to move on. Now don't forget that we're going to be overwhelmed with submissions to this, so I'll draw for one every Friday, and that will be our priority piece for Mondays. But if we're looking for pieces in time, we'll get to it. So if you're looking for immediate attention to some piece, it may not come back to you right away. So that's the only suggestion about that, is that but by watching Makeover Mondays, you'll learn a ton by helping analyze someone else's frustrating piece and figure out how to make it better. Okay, so Makeover Mondays is going to be about learning through other people's frustrations. So that will be a good one. And then Tuesday, I thought it might be something like a Technique Tuesday. And so we're not going to be really learning new techniques, because new techniques will be explored in the workshops. But what we can do is we can refine techniques. So a lot of things that I've noticed a lot of people have issues with is integrating the photos into your piece so it doesn't look like it was just stuck on. So what I'm going to do is have a Technique Tuesday. And hi Maria, and the star of the day. And we're going to have Technique Tuesday, which, like I said, is going to be all about refining techniques and maybe talking about the challenges of some techniques that we have introduced on Fridays and things like that. So Technique Tuesday is going to be part of the new curriculum. And then Wednesday, I thought, because it starts with a W, why would we not make Wednesday all about wax? So Wednesday will be Waxing Wednesdays, and that will be all about encaustic and faux encaustic and encaustic. Hi, Lindsay. All about anything to do with encaustic, okay? So all our questions and things like that, that would be great. Okay, so Wednesday, Waxing Wednesday, Thursday. I have no topic for Thursday. I hadn't really thought about that, given that Friday is our workshop day. So I'm open to suggestions, but so let me go over the curriculum again. So we're going to structure our weeks so that, hi Terry, hi Jules. We're going to structure our, for everybody just joining now, what we're talking about is structuring the Open Studio so that we have a topic each day that is consistent, okay? So Mondays is going to be Makeover Mondays, and on Mondays we're going to work with frustrating paintings to you guys, okay? So it's going to be something that we're all going to work out together. I'm going to help identify first what is maybe causing this frustration within the painting, and then through suggestions and everything else, you guys will be able to learn. So it's not about, oh, my painting hasn't been picked, so I'm not going to learn anything. The reality is you're going to learn so much by understanding how we are looking at a painting and how we're looking at the I always call it there we go, the bones of the painting, but we're going to be looking at composition, and we're also going to be looking at value. So those are the two things that Thursday could be: theory, color, perspective, etc. That's a great one, Rhonda, but you guys are really going to have to contribute to that because I am not formally trained. I am very, how do I put it? I'm intuitively trained. Okay, so what I do is I learn color and perspective and all that stuff by observing and then teaching it to myself. So if I want to know about colors, I look through tons of art, I look through tons of things until something says to me, wow, I love that color combination. And then I start to understand. I mean, I understand a basic color wheel, but that's going to be totally boring. What I start to do is I observe my own interpretations and my own excitement about things like that. And then I translate that into my own work. See what I'm saying? A little bit. Or perspective. To me, perspective comes from looking at photographs, looking at looking out in real life, right? And then seeing how lines come and shapes come and things like that, or picking a spot in the distance and then going, okay, so if that's that big, then here, how big is my lamp in comparison to that door over there? So then I'll actually just draw that out as part of composition. So if you guys would be interested in Christina Lovisa theory, then I'd be happy to share. But it's not going to be an art lesson because like meeting from that you would actually receive any accreditation for from some respected school or something, because I haven't been trained that way. I know this intuitively, or I teach myself these things intuitively. And yeah, so if you're interested in that, I'm happy to share. But yeah, you certainly wouldn't, I don't know. Anyway, I don't know how much you would learn from that, but we'll try. Hi, Crystal. You just missed a very interesting discussion on Thursday theories. Anyway, but what I could do on Thursday, if we wanted to talk about theory, because it's going to be through my lens, right? It's not going to be through the lens of opening up any book and reading about these techniques. What I always find inspirational is picking an artist or picking a style and then working backwards. What I try to do is I try to pick apart the the structure, if you want to say. No. I'll pick apart the steps in creating that painting. But I'm just picking it apart from my own observations and from my knowledge, my limited knowledge of techniques, right? So I'm teaching myself a new way through observing other things. So what we could do is we could have an inspirational painting that we choose randomly out of thin air, but all different techniques, and try to create our own version of it, which could be really fun as well. So, and then I could let you know my observations from that painting and trying to mimic or, create the steps. So just catching everybody up. So we're just talking very briefly about the structure for Open Studios. So Mondays, we're thinking of Makeover Monday, which is going to be from now on working on analyzing and not critiquing, because I hate that word. I really hate that word. Like, there's nothing worse to me than in a class when they say, let's sit down and do a critique. Because that can mean so many things. So this painting has caused Maria a great deal of consternation. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at that painting from an objective perspective, first of all, composition and value and stuff like that. So in helping watch through this and helping along, you'll learn so much about analyzing and developing your own paintings further. So that's going to be Mondays. Tuesdays, techniques, and it's not going to be learning new techniques necessarily as much as it is going to be refining certain techniques. You guys have to contribute like what kind of techniques you want refined. I was suggesting that one of the things we start with maybe tomorrow is photo integration. So some people have a hard time making a photo look like it's natural part of a mixed media painting instead of just something you just stuck on. So that would be kind of technique Tuesday. Wednesday is all going to be about the encaustic. So it'll be waxing Wednesdays, anything to do with encaustic, faux encaustic, anything like that. We'll learn a ton. We'll just do like one little thing at a time. It'll be really fun. And so waxing Wednesdays, Thursdays, there was an idea tossed out there from Rhonda that we do a more of a theory class on Thursdays, and I was laughing because it's almost like Rhonda was giving me credit for having some theory sensibilities, but what I was trying to explain in sort of a roundabout way is that because I'm self-taught, I intuitively observe and through osmosis kind of thing, just have learned my techniques and my theories. So I've developed my own theories. So as you know, I don't want this to become like a cult that everybody's like, oh, we're following her theories. It's not like that. It's just that my theories on color and perspective and all those different things won't be the same as when you Google, like, what would I learn in university at art school about color and perspective? It's not going to be that kind of a lesson. So any other suggestions for Thursdays, toss them out there. Friday we will reserve for our workshops. Thank you all so much for participating in them. I am just overwhelmed and overjoyed with seeing thanks, Crystal. Oh yeah, anyway, a bit crazy. Yeah, so thank you so much everyone for participating in and enjoying the workshops on Fridays. Remember, this is not meant to break the bank for anybody, so if you can't afford it at this time, I totally understand. Send me a message and we'll get you hooked up to watch those videos. But for those of you who are helping keep the lights on in the studio, thank you, thank you, thank you. It is my joy to be presenting these videos to you, and I put a lot of thought and concentration into what it is would appeal to both really seasoned artists as well as beginners. And so I'm really hoping that these Fridays continue for a very long time because I'm having so much fun doing them. So that being said, let me move this camera so that we can start working on Maria's painting. So Maria's painting, I'm going to slide this into a different tripod and flip it down if I can. No, it doesn't want to go that way. How do I do this? Okay, stand by everybody. Fumbling. It should be Technology Tuesday where we talk about gadgets and gizmos and all kinds of things that elude me. And platforms. Oh my goodness, I cannot. Thank you, Alona, that's so sweet of you. I cannot tell you how many hours I have spent researching the perfect platform for making live recorded, pre-scheduled video with interactive chat, blah, blah, blah. You'd think it'd be as easy as a touch of a button. But now, so we're going to try the Zoom thing that Amelia and who was helping me? I can't remember now. I can't remember. I'm sorry. Anyway, so there was a few people who had suggested Zoom, and the issues I'd been having was the pre-scheduling and all that. So now I have a few more hurdles, but the class that I have scheduled on Friday actually has a link to join a Zoom meeting. So what I'm a little bit confused about right now is to make sure that it's going to be recorded so that you can watch it afterwards. So that's the beauty about Facebook, right? Is that as long as I keep it up on the page, you can go back and you can revisit that video. And if you have YouTube, some of you had some issues with downloading the link. You need to be open in YouTube first. So you have to have a YouTube account on your computer, which is free, but you have to have a YouTube account and you have to open the link through that apparently. So, anyway, so I don't know how to make Zoom evergreen, but we'll try. I'll try all this stuff. I'm just hoping that it all works out. But yeah, for now, I've changed my... Oh, Crystal. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Maybe we can talk after this. I know, are you working still? Anyway, if you're working, let me know. But let me know when a good time to be, like a 10-minute chat on the phone would be fabulous. Okay, let's talk about Maria's painting. Because Maria won, the big winner. Sorry, that sounded really pretentious. Just dropped it. Sorry guys, making y'all seasick. Okay, so Maria won the, whoops, gotta tighten that. The, there we go. Maria won the class. Let me move this into perspective under the screen. There we go. Okay, so we have Maria's painting here, and this has been causing her a lot of grief. So I am going to help understand this a little bit better. So if Maria sends us some more information on it, it would be great, because I bet you everyone's first reaction to this painting is, sorry, I'm going to log on to Facebook under my son's account so that I can see the chat at the same time, because when the tripod is on, I can't see your comments. So let me switch users here and then we can chat. So I bet you anything, the first thing that everybody is commenting on, and I can't read it. Okay, sorry. Give me one sec. Switch user. I bet you everybody's comment is, what's wrong with this painting? There's nothing wrong with it. And that's because it's actually quite beautiful. At first glance, I thought, I wonder why this is causing her so much grief. Like, it's actually a really nice painting. So, you know what? I can't actually do this right now, so I'm going to flip this up so I can talk to you guys. There we go. Okay, so let me go back in the comments. So, Crystal's going to help me. Lucy's here. Hi, Lucy. Maria says it's completely waxed. The flower part is too solid. Okay, so those are the things that are bothering you at first glance. And then I'm going to hold this up and so we can talk about it a little bit, and then I'll flip it around if I can get signed in. So let's talk about, so you guys all see this? It's also in your comments if you go down into the feed. What I want to know is, so I know it's all encaustic because somebody had said it would be great if I could help redo the picture in encaustic. I actually just have a photocopy, so like a print, and so I'm not able to do encaustic on here. But we're going to look at First of all, composition and then value. So if anybody has printed this, I think this is one of the most valuable tools I've given you. It's down in the feed. I'll put it back in so that you don't have to go too far for that. The composition, the composition is really, really, really important in this, and I'm going to show you why. And then the other thing that's really is the value scale. So I'm going to flip this down and then do some drawings on my paper at the same time so you can see what I'm doing while we're just dissecting this. And then the other thing I wanted to ask Maria was, what substrate is it on? Is it on a piece of wood or is it on a cradle panel? If it's on a cradle panel, what is the size of the cradle panel? Because it's hard. I just printed this like 8 by 8, so, or 10 by 10 or whatever this is. So I'd be happy to know a little bit more about that. I can see why it's bothering you now. At first it didn't, like, I was like, I don't know, it's a beautiful painting. But then I started to look at it and I'm like, now I get it. And so I've been here a million times before, guys. Like, I can't even tell you how many times I've been here. And what I mean by I've been here, it's just that I have, there we go, trying to sign into a different account so I can read the comments. Groups, pardon me. Oh, I have to ask for permission to be in my own group. All right, so what do we call it? Open Studio with Christina. And see if I can get in there. I just want to be able to read with you guys or read your comments. So yeah, so Maria, just give us a bit more information on the substrate and things like that. That always helps me just determine, and also how attached you are to the painting. So maybe 14 by 14, okay. And then let me know how attached you are to the painting. So sometimes a painting has caused me so much frustration and it's taken up so much of my time that I'm willing to let go a lot more of it than initially I thought I was. And then let me just join that. All right, sorry guys, I just realized I wasn't part of that. Now I need to go into my own account and accept the invitation. This was a great workaround that that Amelia gave me. That if anybody's ever looking for a great workaround within your group so that you can still read, I could toss it out easily. Well, okay, so if you could toss it out, then it makes it a bit more, you know what I mean? Like if somebody says, no, I've worked so many hours on that, I'm not willing to give up a lot of it, then for me, it's like, it's a slam dunk. We can work around and keep fussing with it. And, okay, one person wants to join the group. I'm so sorry. I should have done this ahead of time. Approve. And now I can go back in and I can switch. This way I can switch the camera down. This is Amelia's great workaround. And I'm going to mute the volume. And that way I can watch the chat in a different feed while turning the camera down so I can talk to you guys. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn the camera down. And we're going to look at, you guys see it? There we go. I think I have to move the camera down. There we go. I'm just going to make sure we're lined up. Yeah, good. Okay, so looking at composition and looking at value, am I at the top or the bottom here? This is the top. Okay. Looking at composition and value, I think if you're being analytical, if we're looking at this piece, I'm going to use a gold Sharpie and that might help me mark this up a little bit better. So I'm going to draw for you what this composition looks like. on a blank sheet of paper. And this will help you immensely when you start to look at your own painting. So make sure that we have the paper in there, and then we have Maria's thing in here. Great. Okay, so what I want you to be able to see, let me get that out of the way. You guys can see this? Good. So what I want you to be able to see is, let's pick out the darkest shapes first. So I'm going to do, it's a square, right? So let me draw a square. Can you see that? Yeah, we can see that. Okay, good. So there's a lag in the video, so I can't see. So I'm going to pick out the biggest, or sorry, the darkest shapes first. There, now in the video I see that I've got this. Great. Okay, so let me draw the darkest shape here. And this is going to give us our composition. So sometimes we don't see composition the same way as when we're starting a painting, right? So when we start a painting and we start to lay it out and we balance it out, and or we're starting to refine our paintings, edit them as I call it, then we end up with looking at composition from like, oh, something's missing. That's generally what people say. Something's missing. I need to add something. So these are Maria's darkest shapes right here. Okay, so so good variety in size, and these are all the darkest darks. Okay, so darkest darks we've got here, 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 and here. That's not bad composition, but you notice there's 4. So that's 4. They're all varying sizes. Now let's look at her next color. Which is also dark and not much variation in color. This is a nice mid. This is all dark. So everything that's colored is dark. Okay. And so we've got the darkest of darks on the outside. Another dark on this inside, which makes up the biggest shape, and then a mid-tone here, and our lightest of lights is all around the corners or the edges here, but you can see it's not a lot, but it's smattered with, it's my only word for it, with lots of texture and lots of her patina. See what's happening here as I'm drawing this on? Lots of patina in the same value as our darkest dark. So by doing that, I'll show you what's happening. There we go. So when you see it all done like that, what I'm going to show you is we have lost the ability to focus on anything. Okay, so what happens in any painting when we're analyzing our paintings, and you'll hear me say this every single time, a million times over, is that your eye will always fall in the areas of greatest and lowest, or the greatest area of high and low contrast together. So the greatest area of high and low contrast is kind of like these areas around the painting, except for the fact that they are so randomly placed that we're not sure where to look. So our eye goes to this dark areas in the middle, which don't have enough value difference in them. They're all sort of dark. They don't have enough value in them to get you to look at this as like standing out. So what's competing in this one is that we want to look here, right? Maria wants you to look at this flower, but instead we're forced to look at all these little things around, and we're trying hard to bring our eyes back to here. So then we pop between this mid, like where it's bright again, we pop between those. So Maria said right in the beginning, the flower is all the same color. It doesn't have enough. So we're just bouncing. It's like a game of ping pong here. We're back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And we are, this whole dark area has become this sea of like nothing. So we have a few ways we can deal with this. So when we're looking at composition, okay, so now that we have a plan, so this plan here in the marker will help you identify your images. So on here, the dark ones are your darks and your empty ones are your empty. So you can make any map of any of your paintings just by doing this, by drawing the shape and making it dark. I would recommend you use a black Sharpie or something, just so that you can actually see where your darks are, and then leave your light things very open. So your background can be your mid or your light or whatever it is. But for now, just pick out the elements that are the composition for your painting and start to analyze where they are. So Maria has a bit of this going on and a bit of this. Okay, so if we're looking at the biggest dark image right smack dab in the middle, it's here with all these other things, and it's here with all these other things. So what's happening, if you look at this, this one says, this is the desired side, this is the not so desired side, I guess, the way they put it. So use size and color variation. So Maria has, remember I said at the beginning, she had the size going for her, but they were all the same color. Then this shape came in, which size was greater, but the the tone was the same as the darkest dark. So now all this kind of got conglomerated into one big painting, and she has no variation anymore, which, if you look at this one, it says that the centering your main image can be boring. So it's not even that it's boring in this case, it's that it becomes invisible. And the reason it's invisible is because our eye always goes to the area of high and low contrast, right? So we're fighting to look here, and then we go back to the center, and we've got this ping pong match going on, and we're avoiding the one thing that we want you to look at in the first place. So what can she do? That's great, right? We analyzed it. That's awesome. Now what can she do? So Maria's willing to let go lots of it. So I've actually found a few things online this morning. I'm going to take the camera out of here for a moment. Pardon the shaky camera thing here. Okay, so let's flip this around. We don't need to look at me. Okay, so let's look at my screen, and I'm going to pull up some paintings. Okay, so you see this one? This is an oil painting of a flower. And what's interesting about this one, I'll just point out some of the things, is that the background is in varying shades of mid-tone. So what they've done with that one in terms of composition is, when we look at composition sheet, I'll put that right beside. So it's in the background, right? And then they've got this main object sort of in the middle, like this or like this. But because it's so big and it's taking over like this flower here, they've created this interesting thing of mid-tone all the way around with a few other like darker little patches to keep your eye moving, just like this one here. A few other little darker patches to keep your eye moving. But essentially, the image is central, but it's got a completely surrounded mid-tone background that's beautifully gradient in the greens. But it becomes the background, right? The focus is on this rose. So this rose is it's an oil painting, so it's much looser and much more impressionistic. Like I'm assuming it's a rose, but to me it feels like a rose. It has the shape of a rose. It's got the colors that are not a rose. If I were to say to you, what color is that rose? you would struggle. Is it red? Is it yellow? Is it purple? Like there's no such thing as that rose. So what I wanted to point out in this though is the fact that she was able to be very loose, or I say she, it could be a he, I have no idea. This artist was able to be loose, but the artist played with the value right here. You see this? So this is the greatest area within the flower itself of darkest dark and lightest light. So because you've got the lightest light right beside the darkest dark, this is where your eye goes, this is where we're looking. Now we have enough little areas of high and low together, even though white and black are ultimately the darkest dark and the lightest light, but because they are so small, right? These are really small little areas compared to the massive darkest dark and lightest light here, that yellow and this dark reddy purplies become our main focal point. So this artist has drawn your eye exactly to where you want this to be. Now, the one thing that always drives me bananas about people buying art is that they always say, oh, it's the color of my living room. Well, I tell you, there are so many colors in here, and nobody's living room is this acid green. But I tell you, this could go in so many situations and settings because these greens are a mid-tone which do not even compete for the attention as this rose because of these values. So how does this apply to Maria's painting? She could totally play with the petals and she could totally change the color. Let me put this beside. She could change the color so that the flower took on this more random look. She could play with her colors, and with wax it's easy to do, right? She could just layer on different wax and scrape through, and then if she loses the flower, she loses the flower. But carving out those petals in interesting colors might be super fun. The second thing I would tend to do is I would diminish these leaves and this background to be nothing more than a mid-tone background. So I would never create such a, and I understand, like when we take a picture of a flower, if you're painting that exactly, this is how it would look. Like Maria has done a fantastic job, but it's lacking the spark that a real flower would have because it's in competition with the background, right? And the leaves in this case are background, and the background is a background, and it is competing for center stage. So the center is really cool. I'm not sure I would actually play with that too much. I think it's really neat, and there should be a good relationship then between that part and that part. So similar to this flower, you've got this great little part going on right in the middle. So I would leave it because I in this image I really think it looks really cool. It's just the leaves in the background, and then the flower, as you mentioned, is all one color. So that's one way of doing it, but let's look at a second approach. So a second approach, and I want to see how you guys could see how this could relate because it's not a flower. But I'm going to ask you a question. That's exactly what I did. Drew it exactly as a photo. Yeah, you can see that. And you did a beautiful job. And then you tried to create an interesting background out of it, right? And because you tried to create an interesting background out of it, it just ended up competing with the flower, and we're not sure where to look anymore. Thanks, Crystal. So we'll talk afterwards. I totally appreciate it. Have a great day at work. So tell me, what does this barn have to do with Maria's flower? So because of the lag, nobody's going to be able to answer that, but I'm just going to tell you what it is. So the barn and the flower are the exact same thing. They are the object that I am trying to get you to look at. They are the same object that Maria is trying to get you to look at. It's the focal point. So Maria tried to create a focal point of a flower. This artist, I think this is an acrylic, tried to create a focal point with the barn. So you can see how competition, here we go, you can see how competition is happening because the background is so busy and because these leaves are so dark, right? We're drawn off the page, which is great, but they should be so much more contrast between these that you look at the flower and not at the leaves. So that is what's happening on that one. And then on this one, you can see here, if they just put the barn floating in the middle, then for sure that's all you would see. But if you look more closely, there's some great stuff happening with this barn. So these abstract forest line trees take you right off the page. Exactly what Maria tried to do with these leaves, right? Take you off the page. But what they did was, you can see, is that they're like washed out. They've been painted in with some black, and then it's like they've been baby wiped out or something, because they're not intense. Had they been solid black, like, let me put something black up there. Had they been solid black, let me put that there. You can see what is going to happen is that your eye's going to go to the solid black as opposed to the barn. What they've done by doing in this washed out black is that they've kind of invited you into the barn, sort of off the page. And then the barn itself might not be the darkest thing, but with those little windows in white and the big white roof, and then the birds sitting on the top, and then the actual size of this barn in relation to the whole painting, then this tiny little fence which leads you down the path and off the painting. They've made you look exactly where they want you to look. If I were to take this away now and say, what color is the barn? You'd all be able to tell me what color is the barn. I'd say, what color is the fence? You'd be able to tell me what color is the fence. If I were to say, what color is the roof? Some of you have to think, right? I'm going to go back to it. It's white. It's white. Why are we noticing the white? We're noticing the white because right here, and then right here, and then right here. So this area has become the greatest area of high and low contrast within this whole painting. This is probably a massive painting, but the only part you're actually looking is right here, and this little fence carries you down. All the rest, are you ready for this? All the rest is just a white, neutral background. It's nothing. But that painting has it has done exactly what it intended to do, was to make you look at that barn. So, going back to Maria's painting, now do you see a little more clearly why that flower is not calling your attention? It's because these leaves and the background are competing for it. So all we do is we just compete between the lightest part of the background in contrast to the leaf, and then the middle. The rest of the flower, which is actually where she wants you to look, has become dismissed. So a lot of you might just think, oh, easy, all she has to do is paint out the background more neutral and lighten her leaves, right? Got it. Oh, easy, slam dunk. Well, that's one approach, but let's look at another approach. So we got the barn and we had the flower. Now let's look at one more approach. I personally am drawn to this one because I find it the most compelling, because it's dark and they've lightened the flower. They've created for me what is there. I'm gonna put the light on it better so that you can see. They've created for me, whoever this artist is, there's got this line up here which gives you a bit of interest, right? It breaks up the background. No, that's because it's not square. So had it been square, that would be maybe a much smaller area of contrast and interest. But the bird and the background, so the background is very dark, but look at how dark our bird is. But the bird is highlighted in such a beautiful, subtle way that complements this little band up here. And then the greatest area of high and low contrast without a competition is right here, right? So we're looking right at the bird. The feathers in the back do nothing except tell you that that's like the shape of a bird. But the funny thing is if that's all that artist did was didn't do the light part, but only did that dark part, do you see how it wouldn't be the same image at all? And that's, in a nutshell, what Maria has done, is she has just created this scenario where we just don't see that it's a bird. We just don't see, in her case, that it's a flower. But put a few highlights on it. Wow, what a gorgeous bird, right? So I love this too because it's moody and it's beautiful and it's just, it's subtle, and who even knows? I really didn't spend a lot of time researching my artists, obviously, and that's my bad, but I wanted to show you that it doesn't always have to be a light background. You can also do a dark background, but then put the highlight on the things that count. So these are just three options of ways that I would sort of rescue this painting. Alternatively, there's always an alternatively. Let's look at, I'm going to put this back down, slide this back in here. Let's look at collage, because I often go to collage